Anthony Tralbulsi, the lead researcher in this very determinative study about the so-called CCSVI, or the constricting of the veins. But you heard him, in a very sympathetic way, say it would be patronizing to simply tell the thousands of MS patients who've had the liberation therapy that it was just a placebo all in their heads. So it is important that we continue to find answers. Dr. Tralbulsi, UBC, thank you for putting this on the record and helping us learn more. Oh, by the way, the co-author is from Saskatchewan, but couldn't find her yesterday. They didn't talk. So I wanted you to get the first report here from Dr. Tralbulsi. Now, one of the over 3,000 Canadians who went offshore for this kind of widening of the neck veins is Michelle Walsh. We've spoken with Michelle before from Beachy, Saskatchewan. So what does this study leave her thinking? And now, after, in fact, more than a year after her last liberation therapy, does she have any still relief of her MS symptoms? We check in with her next. I'm John Gormley. This is News Talk Radio.
Psychologically, they're feeling better. I think that's being a bit patronizing to people, and I think we need to do the proper research to fully address if there is any treatment benefit, and if we determine a treatment benefit, then we have to figure out why. Why are people benefiting from this?
Lead researcher, neurologist Anthony Tralbulsi, UBC, yesterday, unveiling the results of a Canadian study now appearing in The Lancet. 1, MS is not caused by a narrowing of neck veins. 2, the narrowing defined by an Italian researcher is very rare. Only 3 people presented with it. But narrowing of neck veins overall is very common in the general population, including people with MS. So this then invites the question that he addressed: why, when people go away to have the neck veins widened, the so-called liberation treatment, do many people feel better? Michelle Walsh, Beachy, Saskatchewan, has been with us many times before. Michelle has MS. She went to Bulgaria in 2010 for liberation treatment. 2012, she had another treatment in California. So we find Michelle at home in rural Saskatchewan today. Michelle, what did you think when you heard this research study in The Lancet?
Hi, John. You know what? When I read the actual detailed report, John, I wasn't surprised. No one said that this causes MS, for starters. And number 2, were they treating high enough? There has been so much more research around the world. Canada's really behind or going backwards, but there's more stuff in the intracranial and in the brain, and the veins in the brain that are draining into the jugulars that they're finding around the world. So when I read this, I just really shook my head, because I don't think that they were even looking at the right stuff, or should have been looking at the intracranial vein.
But they did say, Dr. Tralbulsi was pretty clear, that you need to study further why people do feel better. So, I mean, he wasn't shutting the door or invalidating your experience.
Well, and that's, I think, the main point we need to come back to is there are patients, and it hasn't helped everyone, I'd agree with that, but for those of us that it has helped, this has greatly increased the quality to our lives. And so why are we getting this benefit? I am post 3 years from my first procedure. I still feel awesome. I just had a baby last December. I've had no progression with my multiple sclerosis. That used to be a secondary progressive phase, and I was fitted for a wheelchair 3 years ago, and I still don't need that wheelchair. So there is research that definitely needs to be tapped into. And for our patients, not only in Saskatchewan, but in Canada all across, we deserve an answer as patients as to why that is.
This variable type of benefit, as you said, some people get no benefit when they get the neck veins widened. Others talk about the brain fog lifting. They talk about increased mobility. Do we know, or is this part of needed research, what the cost benefit is? If you spend X to get the therapy done, do you save Y in terms of drugs and other costs?
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of the drugs that I personally was taking for treating my MS didn't work. They didn't work, bottom line, and they costed me and the province of Saskatchewan up to $1,500 a month, and so I actually sat down one day and was totaling up with all the years and how many dollars have been spent on these drugs that didn't help me, and how much it costed me for this procedure. And you know what? It's like, okay, do we look at millions of provinces spending on these drugs that may not give any benefit to what this procedure does, as opposed to what this procedure costs? maybe 5,000 to 10,000 for this procedure, and it's 40 million, I think, roughly our province is spending on these drugs that aren't helping. And so this is huge. When people say to me, oh, our government shouldn't be wasting this money, I say, okay, you know what, sit down with me. I'm going to show you the actual numbers because I want to educate them. And then they open their eyes, John, and then they say, oh, wow, you're right. Even like as heart patients, they maybe need, their angioplasty once a year. And why should we not be able to have that for a vascular issue? Because it's still a cost savings.
Michelle Walsh, good having you by as always. All the best on this, and keep in touch.
Thank you, John. Take care.
Michelle joining us in Beachy. Michelle Walsh has had a treatment in Bulgaria 2010, another one 2012 in California. And what I found helpful in this Dr. Tralbulsi-led study is that he hasn't closed the door on the experience of some people in alleviating symptoms. Just, I think he's forged some important science on the fact that this Dr. Zamboni, the idea that MS is caused by a narrowing of veins, no, it does not appear to be the case. Coming up, the hour of the big story. So much